there are going to be some players who are just not good in the thinking department. And you just kind of like have to set them up in a situation where they carry, and they'll be like, I'm doing everything, and like you're the unsung hero because you set up the situation for them to actually win. How long have you been playing Overwatch?
I think it's about 2-ish years now, somewhere in the year 1.5 to 2 years.
And you're high plat, low diamond, somewhere in there?
Yeah, on tank. I started playing technically a Mercy one trick. Then I went Widow one trick for a long time, played DPS. Then I went on support, got on a serious scrim team, and we actually got to like the 3500, 3099 GGNA tournaments, grand finals. Got all the way there on Rig one tricking.
Wow.
Got to 3700 on that. At some point, I just burned out because we lost that game, and I took it way too hard. So I just bounced around for a while, and I really enjoyed playing Brig. So I was like, you know what, Brig's a tank. Let's just play Reinhardt.
And how long have you been playing Reinhardt now?
I'd say around the beginning of the year. Well, no, actually, no, a little bit longer than that. Let's say since winter of last year. I think I've been taking it more seriously.
And you're playing on a team, and you said you've played on a serious scrim team before. Do you have any kind of goals for Overwatch? Have fun, play competitively, go pro?
I mean, the ideal would be go pro, but I'm setting my sights on the more realistic goal of hitting contenders at some point.
Nice. All right, so
quote unquote realistic.
So we will take this VOD seriously then.
I appreciate it. Anything at all, I will take that criticism, and I will at some point make a note and try and remember as best I can.
All right, perfect. Lou, any questions?
Yeah, just looking forward to seeing it.
All right, let's get to it.
Don't worry, my friend. I have your shield.
So, I guess we'll just like get off right into that. How recent was this game?
This was Friday.
So you remember this game? Like you remember your mind, like what you were thinking during this game?
To some extent, I can probably answer some of those, at least some questions.
All right. So when you are playing in a composition like this, can you just like look at the team composition that you have and kind of like run through your thought process when you see what the rest of your teammates are playing?
This is what I'm basically playing right now. Is it's basically Brawl. Hanzo's a bit spammy off angly. He can kind of play a little bit like a Kree, go off to the side, shoot the sports. Doom's Brawl. Zarya is, well, I guess technically at the high level she's considered dive because you play her with Winston and whatnot. So, but at this rank you play her more brawly. And obviously Bap is a brawl hero that you would play like in a group with everybody. I can't go very aggressive because I don't have a Lucio, so I have to play a little bit more measured and use cover a little bit more and just try and like wait for them to come to me because I have more healing, but not the ability to actually get to the enemy. So they can just walk back and I can't do a whole lot about it.
And how are you actually defining Brawl in your mind? Like what is Brawl to you?
Brawl is being in a clump and engaging on a single target quickly and at close range.
So, and you, like, your BAP is going to be playing with you in your mind in this game?
In ranked, probably not. He'd probably be hanging out either on the high ground or back by the ticket booth. Because he's probably scared of like the Roadhog, especially. He doesn't want to get yoinked. So I'd imagine he'd play a bit back. Zarya would play with me. Hanzo would off angle, and Mercy would be nearby because she is healing us, and she has limited range.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get at is this isn't really Brawl. You have the Doomfist. He can play with you, I guess. If he's going to be kind of like punching the enemy main tank or something like that, but he's probably going to be wanting to set up to get a pick or get a dive or kind of like do a pincer once you actually start to press in. The Hanzo, again, he can play with you, but he's going to want to prefer high grounds or off angles or things like that. And with you not having a, you don't really have any supports that can assist you with defense. Like, you don't have a Brig who can boop away. You don't have a Lucio who can boop away, or the Lucio doesn't have the speed with you. And the Baptiste here is going to have to play a lot safer because of that. Either going to be on the high ground or much further distances and things like this. So you're not really playing Brawl here. You have a pretty like high damage, tank line, certainly, if you are able to or forced to fight in close quarters. But that's not going to be the way that you like really win fights. The way that you are winning fights in this situation is going to be enabling your Doomfist to get picks and enable, or at least buying time for your Hanzo to find headshots and things of that variety here. Now, one of the big kind of misconceptions here that happens a lot is tanks think they need to hold really aggressive positions or kind of like applying a lot of pressure, but that can be a counterintuitive thing in order to do. Because you could be applying too much pressure that it makes your DPS less effective. In a composition like this, like your entire job is enabling the DPS. And especially in this case, one of the things that your Zarya is going to want to do probably at least some point in time, if not all the time, is bubble the Doomfist on his engage so he has a better chance of surviving and getting a pick rather than having to force the bubbles on you. So the enemy tank line is going to be playing the Sigma and the Roadhog here. So like they can play off angle and they can also just spam you out, and it's going to be really hard for you to push into them because the Sigma and the Roadhog can both operate from a very, very significant distance from you. So one of the things is like you're going to have to play farther back so the opponent has to move forward into kill boxes or areas of threat for them to get play. So these are the sort of the things that are kind of like really important for you to think about and to understand, like how you're like what is your win condition here, because like you don't want to get into a situation where you're trying to like push in and you're punching air because the Roadhog and the Sigma can both kite you. So like the way you're playing, holding this corner here, right? Where is your Hanzo? So your Hanzo's playing here, and your Doomfist has already died somehow. Let's see how that happened.
He went deep.
So he did go deep, right? So did he get bubbled? Yeah, so you took the bubble, and then our Doomfist is going to go in, I assume. Where? Right?
He does get the Sig.
He does get the Sig. Oh, and he dies.
But he used all three.
Yeah, so he used all three, and he didn't have bubble to get in here, sort of thing. So with the Hanzo playing here, right, the Hanzo can also play the high ground, but it's going to make the backline more vulnerable if instead of playing like right up here, you can play further back, or you can play truck, or you can play bus stop. Or something like that, because that's going to put them into a little bit more of a horseshoe, or it's going to give your DPS more opportunity here. Like especially with them having a Mei, Zenyatta, they have the Roadhog hook, they have the Ana. There's a lot of things that can really, really fuck you up. The opponent has more win conditions involving killing you than you have win conditions involving you killing literally anything. Like keeping your range, applying your pressure with your fire strikes, like that's, it's going to be a much more boring play for Reinhardt, but that's the kind of play style that you actually need to play in order to win a game like this.
Okay.
I know that I just like started out with like a 10-minute rant, but Lou, do you have anything to
add? Yeah, a couple things. One, I think, is a really common misconception from main tank players in Brawl, where it is not your job to do a bunch of damage when you engage. It is your job to generate, almost like you're playing an MMO, you're playing World of Warcraft, you're generating aggro as a tank, and you're baiting their attention onto you, and you're living. That's your main job, because that's going to maximize your DPS uptime. That's going to maximize people like your Doom getting in for engages, and people like your Zarya for building charge, people like your Hanzo for setting up DPS angles and stuff like that. And you're just baiting cooldowns and attention onto yourself. Most commonly right now, Brawl that's being ran is like Rein, Diva, Mei, McCree. And a lot of the time, Rein will go in, get like one swing off, and then just hold his shield against the Mei, because that's all he's doing is baiting the Mei's attention, and the Mei's not doing anything else. So in this kind of situation, you're going in to close the gap, and you're trying to get these swings in, and you're getting a bubble to enable you to do that. But again, their composition is more range-based, more angle-based, and the only person you're realistically able to hit when you go in is the Roadhog, and you're just going to get shredded after that if you decide to commit to it.
Yeah. I mean, like they've got wall, they've got freeze, they've got hook, they've got rock, they've got nade, they've got sleep. Like you want to eat that aggro for sure, but you want to eat it with your shield, not with your body, because you are going to get dumpstered.
So don't play main tank simulator, aka getting CC'd. Actually get it with the shield. Got it.
Yeah.
You got it. The second thing I was going to say is, I mean, this isn't entirely on you. It's partially on your Doomfist for engaging so early, but this space does not favor your team comp where you decide to fight. pushing around this corner just means Hanzo needs to get even more aggressive. Baptiste needs to move to catch up with you guys and heal you around the corner. You should be waiting for the payload to at least hit the corner so that you can block things like that Mei from where she's sitting right now, as well as enable people like your Baptiste and your Hanzo from a safer distance, I guess.
Gotcha.
Because yeah, this is their space, right?
Yeah.
Look how free their Ashe and their Ana and their Zen are, and now Mei's coming back in too.
And you're putting yourself in a pincer.
Mm-hmm.
Yup.
Yeah, you're forced to turn around because they had that space, and then yeah. Luckily, we trade out and we res the Doom.
That hook misses.
So like right here, where the card is right now, that's probably your ideal engage location for the first fight.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and their Doom sense of timing is off. we'll just put that
Yeah,
euphemistically.
and that's not your fault.
That's not your fault. But it's not going to help.
Yeah.
Like you're
So
not.
I'm not giving him like the space he needs to
Well,
be able to.
you're not engineering the situation and the timing for the Doom to be successful. I mean, you can there are going to be some players who are just not good in the thinking department, and you just kind of like have to set them up in a situation where they carry, and they'll be like, "I'm doing everything," and like you're the unsung hero because you set up the situation for them to actually win because you corralled the opponent into a specific area. And you did it so that the timing made sense because you were drawing aggro, and you did it in a way without demanding too many resources, so those resources could be invested into them. And they're going to be like, fucking team plebeians, I'm doing everything. Y'all are fucking useless scrubs. And you're going to be like, yep, thank you for the carry, right? And sometimes that's just going to be the thing.
That's the main tank life.
That's the main tank life, so.
I mean, I enjoy doing that. I just have to figure out how to do that well.
Yes, yeah. For sure. Cool. So your Doomfist is coming back, but yeah, it's like this position is as long as you survive that, which I think you will. Does your Zarya have her personal? She does, so she's fine here. But this is really good because like, see where your Hanzo is? This sort of situation.
He's free firing. Yeah.
He's free firing, right? Is he gonna get that?
Ooh.
Like this is what you need. You need to kind of get the situation where they're pushing in and they're exposing their backline to a DPS who has flank control, and their tanks are not good for flushing. Their Roadhog can control one flank really, really well, but he's not doing that. So this Hanzo is going to be free fire, and the longer you can exist in this state, there's when we were talking about like risk and reward, right? The opponent, but just by existing, is taking a risk, and eventually our Hanzo is going to get rewarded. So you're not individually trying to kind of get a ton of value or eliminations yourself. You're just trying to make sure that the opponent is existing in a risky position, a risky situation, a risky context for as long as possible until they are punished by accepting too much risk for too long.
Oh, well, so much for risk-free.
Or you just jump in,
Why?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. What do you say to that, honestly? Like, you were fighting the right space to enable your Hanzo, and then he gave up that space.
He just YOLO'd into them.
Yeah. It was a hard fight anyway because of the numbers disadvantage right off the bat, but you were playing in good space.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the cart goes around so the first engage is around the cart, just going around the corner, and I want to play kind of on like pillars, I guess.
Well,
and then when the cart
not
gets
in
a bit
every
further,
situation, right? This is going to change depending on what the enemy playing and what you're going to be playing. It's not it's in this situation, yes, but in a different comp, in a different meta, it'll work differently. This is kind of like, especially there's going to be a lot of thinking involved in the main tank. It's like just think like, how are my DPS going to be playing? You can look, you can ask them in the pre-fight. And the Hanzo will be like, I want to play high ground, or I want to play with you, or the Doom's going to be like, I'm going to be punching main line. And like, you can make those adjustments, but you do have to understand how your DPS want to be playing, right? If they want to play with you, then you can be more aggressive and more, more aggressive. Yeah, just simply like that, because the resources are going to be provided to basically a linear sight line through you to the enemy, right? But if those threats are coming from different angles, then you can't push in. You're going to want to like back them up and bait the enemy team into a corral like horseshoe. sort of situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And part of this information is pretty unique to a map like Havana, which is very one lane dominant as well, where like you don't need to worry about flanks as much, so controlling those don't matter as much, and you can just look for those hard engages when they're playing these sort of more ranged based compositions. If this was a different map, I'm just thinking one like we looked at Nimbani yesterday, I think, where on the streets phase in Nimbani there's a ton of flank options, and if you were to just hold one corner, you'd just get surrounded by high grounds and by flanks. You'd have to play a lot differently against the same composition in the same sort of situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, part of the reason that first corner on Havana is so important is because the enemy has like no other ways around it. They've got like a short flank around the right, and they've got angles, and all you want to do is avoid playing into their angles.
Gotcha. Okay.
So many different contexts to consider.
Yep.
Oh, we're going fast. That was a really aggressive grab play. It was okay. It was an okay grab, but realistically trying to close that much distance and then also follow up a grab, again, because of the composition they're running, becomes very hard because they're not all playing together. They're not playing Brawl. It's not a Brawl v Brawl where you can just grab 6 people. They're playing angles that are going to punish you when you push into that grab. Yeah. And that's not on you, necessarily. The grab was probably just a bit over-eager, probably based on communication in-game. But in order to force the best situation for your Brawl against this composition, you need to set up for that space first so that the distance you are closing, like you said, you don't have a Lucio, is as short as possible, and you're going to get the cleanest follow-up possible.
Okay.
This will apply to things like just normal engages as well, without an ultimate, or Shatter plays as well. If your team has a hard time walking through the space just to get into the fight, it's going to be very, very hard to follow up on top of that. Zen. He tried.
Also, don't be afraid to just shatter one if it secures elimination. That's all it needs to win a team fight.
Okay.
Nice counter.
He didn't get that
He
mega?
somehow didn't get the mega, yeah. Not that
I'd
it
be
would have really
mad.
mattered. Yeah, this looks like Brawl playstyle to me. Shielding a Mei.
You should die.
Engaging gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. That whole
back up.
sequence of flushing people out.
You don't like. There's. Ooh, this is really extending.
I think. So walking around this corner, maybe not warranted, but seeing that the Roadhog is alone. Oh wait, he's not alone. There's a
Yeah,
Reinhardt
he's not
there.
alone, and so your Widowmaker just got this pick on this Ashe, but this Ashe was here as well. So this is a huge overextend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Especially without coordination from your team. If your whole team was over here, it's a free kill. Like if you had someone like a Mei with you, but I guess you're not running Mei. If you had your Hanzo with you to help you clean up that kill, it could be free, but you making that decision alone isn't enabling your team and is potentially exposing both yourself and your backline to enemy threats.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so now you're on double sniper, so you're playing like you definitely want to give them as many sightlines as possible. You want them to be able to shoot over shields, around shields. Yeah, you don't really want to stuff an opponent in this situation. Good slam.
Ooh, that makes up for it.
Yeah. I mean, so this is going to be one of those.
Oh yeah, that was really aggressive.
It was very aggressive, right? You won it because you hit the slam, but even then, so like this is a situation where like. The thing that you're fighting for, whether it's on Koth or whether on Escort, it's not kills, it's not team fights, it's time, right? You like, if you are going to win this fight, you want to win it as slowly as possible so that they burn as much time as possible. Even if you're going to lose it, you want to lose as slowly as possible so it burns as many of their resources in order to get this team fight at all. You don't want to be taking risks that will potentially give them a quick team fight, especially on attack. So this sort of situation where like you could like force them to slow them down in terms of how long it takes them to take space, and the farther they push in, the more that your Hanzo and your Widowmaker have time to find headshots, have more opportunities to hit, you know, like supports and squishies that are either transitioning between cover or not in cover. And you could like really slow down this team fight, drag it out, be more methodical and controlling about how it's unfolding to make your DPS more impactful, and then you'll still have your hammer in your back pocket. But being so aggressive that you put yourself in massive risk where if you die, the team collapses, or putting you in a situation where you have to hammer early in order to win, it's like you won, but you used your ultimate, and it's like it got 2 kills, but it, like, in the big scheme of things, it got you like 10 seconds. Where if you use your Earth Shatter in a fight that it lasted 90 seconds, and that's what won, then your Earth Shatter won 90 seconds of team fight or something like that. It's not obviously like a 1-to-1 correlation between those two things, but like you're fighting for time. You're not fighting for limbs. You're not fighting for space. You're not fighting for team fights. You're fighting for time, and that is the ultimate resource that everybody pays in to get anything, to get space, to get health, to get damage. Everybody pays in time. So don't rush things. This is the same problem that we had with a Masters tank player who was on stream yesterday. But.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the big thing that I guess I don't think about it very well is that idea of like letting them walk in and expose themselves to, like, especially with double sniper, the snipers, and like baiting them in to become vulnerable and like lose a fight potentially slowly because they're trying to go on me, but my snipers are wailing on them because I'm holding the right place.
And there's an art to this too, right? You know, if you're playing up, and this is where the term kind of like sponging comes from, is like you want to have people be aggressive on you, and you want to be taking damage where people have the advantage and keep pressuring you where you're like, you're fine, you're not going to die, but the enemy's like, I gotta get him, and you can like bait him to overextending into your territory where not only is he surrounded, but his backline is surrounded and overextending because they're trying to like help their overextending Reinhardt, right? So it's one of those things where like there is an art to this as well, because if you just play back, you know, the team that you're proposing is going to be able to take the space for free, able to kind of like think a lot more, like think in a less pressured environment, probably make fewer mistakes, where like you do want to kind of like pressure them in that they can't take the space for free, but you don't want to actually like fight. You want them to kind of be bleeding some resources to take the space and take the space that you want them to take. That makes them vulnerable once they are surrounded, and those sight lines from your snipers become really, truly impactful.
That's a really interesting way of putting it. Bleed resources from them to take the space you want them to take.
Yeah.
I like that.
And when you're playing on your team too, these concepts are something you're going to first actively communicate, but something you guys will be able to decide outside of game, like what spaces work best for you in what composition and stuff like that. And having that knowledge before being in a game can be a huge difference maker in order to make the right plans when it comes down to it, and just by default start in the right positions. So having those conversations is really, really key.
Gotcha.
This is a good example of baiting the Reinhardt in.
Yeah.
He saw you at 70 HP. Sure. Yeah, he sees you at 70 HP. He's like, I gotta get the kill. I gotta get him. And then he dies.
I know that feel. I am that Reinhardt that goes to try to get the kill.
And everybody else in your elo is that Reinhardt, so bait them all into doing it. I am that Reinhardt.
Yeah, we're all that Reinhardt.
We are all that Reinhardt. Yeah, like this guy is,
I mean, sometimes they just come out of position by default, but sometimes you have to force them into it.
Yep. You should have known.
Should have.
These grabs as a whole have been kind of awkward in general. One, tight locations in which it's hard for DPS to follow up, and two, in locations where you have to put yourself out of position to follow up. So sometimes it takes recognizing that to the point where it's like, yes, you want to swing into a grav, you want to throw fire strike in, but it can be too risky.
Yeah.
It's not something that needs to be done if it means costing your life, kind of thing. Ooh, can we touch? Good block on the sleep. We're touching.
Nobody else is gonna get.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
One's too slow. If we had a Lucio, that would have worked.
Good effort, though. Or you just had 4 people trying to move anywhere closer to the point at any point in time.
Yeah. I guess that'll do it too.
Get him. One more. Oh,
He's so low.
There he is.
Nice. We take those.
That's not. Oh, he connected you into the wall.
So it's almost max.
He slammed. Hilarious.
What a
I'm
game
pretty
we're
sure the
seeing.
amount of times I get pinned in the rest of this defense is going to be thoroughly embarrassing.
So unfortunately, this bridge is another one of those situations where we're overextending trying to take a close range fight, and it's not really benefiting our team or yourself that much. You're kind of walking into the enemy Widow sightlines. None of the enemy backline are being pressured at that moment, and your DPS at the time, I think we're still dead or still like just on the ground behind you, so not really in a position to punish people on that bridge. Probably
Gotcha.
better to let them push the payload up to the choke, let your Widow and McCree use these high grounds on either side of the point, and take the best fight possible rather than the earliest fight. Big slam coming.
Yep. Not wrong.
I was thinking about it, just didn't go for it. So sad.
Let me in. I'm not sure how comfortable you are alt tracking, but obviously in the Rein v Rein matchup, it's something you need to be actively thinking about.
You need to
Almost to the point where.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's just like even if you're not going to ult track everyone, you need to at least ult track your partner, like or like your counterpart. Sorry.
Yeah, I can be good at alt tracking. I just don't have a great habit of it at the moment.
Yeah.
I need to build that back in.
And it's like it's another thing is that for most like low level Reinhardts as well, it's gonna be really easy to tell when they have Shatter because they're just gonna play differently.
They'll show it.
They'll show it so easily. So just like looking for warning signs that the opponent is looking for a Shatter, looking for them being more aggressive, trying to like twist the angles or something like that. Even if you don't ult track, just paying attention to the behavior and trying to understand what they're trying to accomplish is going to help you counterplay that.
Mm-hmm.
If you find you're having trouble doing it, it's always just a safe bet to say, like, if they didn't use it last fight, they have it, and I should be ready for it. And then once your understanding gets stronger, you start looking at how much damage they're doing. I mean, in a Reinhardt v Reinhardt, it's often the damage is dealt to you, so you should have a decent idea of how much work they're doing and how much ult charge they're building.
Yep.
And just start pushing your knowledge and start guessing a little harder.
You know, like little
Towards
numbers
what they
like, you know, your Fire Strike is going to get you 7% of your ultimate charge. Your swing is going to get you 5%. Like little things that you'll just know. Your, you know, a charge, if it successfully connects, is going to get you 20% of your ultimate charge. So knowing numbers like that is going to help. No, not only just for like tracking the opponent, but also for knowing that like how many things you need to do in order to get your hammer, so that you can precisely know, like I need to like swing, Fire Strike, swing, and then after that last swing, I can chain that into a hammer or something. It's actually pretty easy on Reinhardt to be able to like plan out which set of cooldowns and actions you need to do in order to get your ultimate, and then chain that into your ultimate.
4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Activated.
All right, we're on Brawl with Widow. So similar concept to last time on defense, where we still need to play for angles and not necessarily the all-out brawl.
Mm-hmm.
Having a Mei is definitely going to help things, though. And they're playing dive DPS with Rein Sigma, which is an interesting choice. Do you want to cover this, Jayne?
No, you can.
Can we watch it one more time?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of over-aggression, like we said, and the idea of playing for angles, like we said, typically just means a little bit slower on the roll. And one, consider where the payload is. Two, consider where your team wants to be fighting. At the very most, for first fight, even on attack for Brawl, we probably want to be using this corner. We want to use safe angles for a Widow, and then once we break this space, then we can look for more aggressive pushes up to that next corner, up to space on the high grounds and stuff like that.
And just as a general rule, right? You know, you need to be aware of what your team is doing and what the enemy team is doing. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of times where an enemy Reinhardt is going to do things like try and be around a corner to shatter you or something like that. So, you know, if you're looking to go aggress on a team and you're not even thinking about like where is the enemy Reinhardt or what are their DPS, right? Because you went in, you knew how this composition was, but at like the 15-second mark, if you didn't visually confirm who each and every single member of the enemy team was, what their comp is and what they're playing, or press tab in order to patch the holes in that information, how do you know what play style you're actually going to play?
Yeah.
So going aggressive when you only see 3 of them, not recognizing that they're playing a Reinhardt, but I don't see him, right? So this is like, in order to make the right strategic decision, you need to have as much and as accurate, as much information as possible and as accurate of information as possible. And you have, like, one of the only ways of acquiring perfect information is just pressing tab. You know, they can't hide the fact they're playing Reinhardt. They can hide their Reinhardt, they can't hide that they have one. So not seeing one and going aggressive without confirming is, I don't like to say, but it is unacceptable for a main tank to not recognize what their main tank is and where they are.
As a reminder too, especially important since you do play on a team, hit tab at 15 seconds and you see their whole comp.
Yep.
And then you know
I
what to
definitely
look
didn't
for.
do that here. I know about it. I just don't have a perfect habit of it.
Everyone that plays Overwatch should be in this habit, and I would say maybe 1% of people do. So you're not alone.
Nice. They just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, the picks coming through, and then they were not able to stabilize. I'd like to see you get in the habit of blocking things like that. I saw you block the Honest Sleep earlier. That was really good, but Accretion is much more obvious cooldown.
I usually block it. Not sure why I didn't there.
Let's swap into a Winston. So, Brawl versus Dive. They're basically running Dive at this point. How does your mindset change as the Rein player? Do you have any thoughts?
So, in our composition, probably have to make sure that we're defending like the squishies, because Winston's going to want to jump in and mess with the back line. As well as obviously what I said earlier, just staying clumped up, which can't control how other people are going to play. As I can see, Anna's over there shooting Widow. So, but other than that, like just being aware of like, hey, Anna's vulnerable, so I need to make sure that I am going to be in a position that I can help with keeping that Anna alive when Genji or Sombra or Winston or all 3 decide to go in and try and ruin their day.
Yeah, for sure. As the Reinhardt versus a Dive comp, you are their worst nightmare. You are the last thing that they want to be dealing with. So if you are on top of your squishies, like your Ana player or your Widow player, they have to think like, oh, geez, I'm committing into a Reinhardt on top of my dive target. Like, this is going to be a nightmare. So just being a nuisance, like a roadblock in their path, is a good way to play. And in a situation like this, you're kind of snowballing, so it's understandable to try and take much space and be aggressive as possible. But for your sort of default taking space play, I'd like to see play slower. So we'll have to see how this fight goes first, I guess.
Yeah.
We followed up a grab. Let's go.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh.
So close. Like I said, being on top of your squishies is good for a deterrent, but also being in their path to even set up for a dive is good as well. And this was sort of what made... Remember when Roadhog Zarya was really popular? When Roadhog was buffed? Roadhog played like a main tank by getting in the face of enemy dive tanks and just not letting them set up, because he ran the risk of killing them. And you're doing the same thing here, where it's like they can't even set up for a dive on your squishy because you're just in their face. Really nice slam, clean kills. Probably an overcommittal of the nano from your team.
I did like the patience on the slam though. You had it. You had many opportunities.
You waited the bubble. That was good.
That Zen? What? Just casually floated
he's
past
making
you.
a high-risk play.
Good charge. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, when you have the space, you don't need to sit on your squishy. And this was a perfect example of like you denied the dive by being in their path, not by being on top of your squishies. That was really good. Probably didn't need to charge that on to get the kill. Probably would have liked to see you save that and just net that kill faster and be on payload faster as well.
I mean, honestly, this fight here at the end of second was really quite good.
Yeah.
Good. Glad to hear it. I did something right. Yay!
A few little like maximization or optimization things, but overall really, really good. Your positioning, your threat, all very strong. Do we slam the monkey? Are we mad at him?
I might slam somebody, I'm not sure.
That was good. High priority Zarya. EMP comes out though, and that's going to stabilize.
Yeah.
So, really, you were exhibiting so much threat that they had to use Nano Blade to even get through a choke. And that's really good. Ideally, especially in like a team environment in those situations, the rest of your team is ready for that ultimate because we've called it and they positioned accordingly. But he ended up getting 3 kills.
And
I would say that's not your fault.
Yeah, the only thing that you could have done there was to commit Shatter early. Like if you know that like Nanoblade is coming in, and you had it on the Shatter, you used it really early, and that gave you an advantage. There was a little bit of an overcommit of the Nano, which could have been used defensively, right? If the Genji has to Nanoblade and goes after a target, and you can nano the target that the Nanoblade and Genji is targeting, that keeps them alive. That's one way of countering it. And the other way is just making sure that you cap point before that Nanoblade can actually come in. So like shattering the monkey, shattering the like Zarya when she dropped on point, just like focusing the people on point, getting them dead, getting them off the point so you can push it in. So there were a few couple things that you could have done proactively, but there were a very, very large number of things that the rest of your team could have done to achieve the same result easier, in an easier way.
Fair. Yeah, I don't... If a Nanoblade comes out and kills multiple people, I don't generally consider that to be my fault. That's just... I can do something about it, potentially, but it's not...
It's
like,
one of those things.
Well, I think you did do something about it, to be honest. Like, you being in his face and him... He got nanoed so early. He got nanoed at the choke and then had to dash through to find targets. But then he still found 3 targets on top of that. So I think you already did your job.
And even if you're not at fault and you lose, you're still going to lose SR. So it's one of those things where, it's like... When we talk about like not at fault or somebody else's fault in terms of like why the team fight was lost or something like that, that's for that's the only context that makes any sense in is going to be like an educational one, is like you made some correct actions. This wasn't as a direct result of your mistake, right? But at higher elos, just doing your job isn't going to be enough. There's always something that you could have. It's like there's a difference between making a mistake and making a play. So even when you are not at fault and you didn't make any mistakes, were there things that you could have done to turn a losing team fight into a win? Yes. Well then, it's like congratulations, you weren't at fault, but you still lost SR, right? So make plays, right? So we're just trying to say that like you're not at fault in the reason that like the team fight did not result in a loss because of a mistake that you made or a misplay you made. There were plays that you could have made to turn it into a win, even if what you did still provided value. There were opportunities for you to provide even more value, and especially if you're wanting to rank up, you need to be able to do that. It's like in order to get to GM or top 500, there's going to be situations where especially like once you start really pushing into the Grandmaster areas, there's going to be situations where you as a Reinhardt or as a Zenyatta player is going to be 200-300 SR higher than anybody else on their team, and they're going to be going against a Tracer or Genji player that's 200 or 300 SR higher. So, like there's going to be situations where you do need to clutch and make plays regardless of the role you're on if you want to reach the highest ranks. And that's going to really, really differentiate the highest tier players, is be able to make those plays. Just not making mistakes isn't good enough to get to the really high ranks.
Gotcha.
That Hanzo almost missed, or almost died to a Winston because he missed the arrows at a Winston at close range. How you doing, Numbered? Good to see you. Oh fuck, I was watching a, I was watching a video and your name came up and I was like, man, I wonder what Numbered is up to. What a fucking, what a coincidence. I was literally thinking about you yesterday, Numbered.
So this is the kind of situation where you're probably going to want to play a little bit slower, where you don't have the space right off the bat. The sight lines are not good for you as attackers, at least not as good as they are for defenders. And getting your squishies in position is how you're going to carry this fight, not by being in their face. Unless they come into your face, I guess.
Yep.
It's plat, anything can happen.
I'm really curious why they're making this such an aggressive play.
They're plat.
Making the same mistake
I mean, I'm not gonna be mad at plats for pressing W.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, you handled that well, obviously. Oh, bye, Doom. Someone was holding spacebar.
Yep.
Again, similar to second point, this is where you could be almost like walking up into their spawn.
Okay.
Doing more to deny their approach, so that your people like your Widow and your Ana don't even have to think about what kind of threats because you're already in their path. Now, see how far back your Widow has to play? Imagine if she was like on the top left high ground right beside you.
Yeah. Of course, now I measure my aggression and it's the wrong time.
It's all about picking your moments.
Yep. Positioning has context, aggression has context.
Yeah.
There's there is no one way to play that is going to be correct in all situations.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think it's worth saying again, this is one of the most unique map points in the game, where typically you wouldn't have gotten punished for like just playing on the cart, but because of how strong the defender's advantage is on this final point and how hard it is to get positioning on attackers, you need to hit the gas there. You need to take that space when it's even lightly afforded to you.
So this situation is interesting, right? Because like this Doomfist is they are gonna flush, or just this May even know. Wait, this May doesn't know.
No.
She still wins.
She still wins. I thought the May was going up there to deal with the Doomfist. Then I was like, wait, she has no idea. But so
why would May be walking up there otherwise? So many questions.
She's a sniper, obviously.
So like, but this is an interesting thing, right? Because like, remember what we've been talking about with you, kind of like trying to corral the enemy tanks into going to a bad position to expose their backline. Like he's sonicked, or you have sights. You have sights, right? So you know he's there, and you're like, and then you're like, meh, fuck it, and you keep walking, right? Right. So this is the sort of thing, like, you know, because if this was flipped and you were red team's Reinhardt, right? The way that you were playing is you would probably be positioning here, making it really hard for your Doomfist to do anything. But like, look at like their tanks, right? So their Winston, yeah, their Winston's dead, so they don't have a main tank right now. But their Zarya's like, nah, I'm gonna piece back here, and she's in position to drop a bubble on this Doomfist if necessary. But this sort of situation, like, this is you are now on the receiving end of the strategy that we've been trying to like tell you to implement, sort of thing. And this is really dangerous to put yourself in this crossfire, to expose your backline to an area where you can't protect them. And like the correct answer to go here is to flush, is to actually get this Doomfist out of this location together and then move into this choke, because like you can't just ignore him, because he's just gonna like E in, get a kill, punch out, and he'll have bubble for the entire thing. So even if the Ana does land asleep, it's just hit a Zarya bubble. Like, this is another thing that you cannot do. You cannot just like fire strike this Doomfist and then be like, throw up your hands like, nothing I can do about it. Good luck, Ana. Good luck, Widow. I'm gonna go walk towards this payload, right? And it's like, you're not even gonna get any support on the payload, because like the rest of your backline is gonna be either focused on not dying to the Doom or fighting the Doom. Even if they win that, you'll probably have died on the payload by the time they resolve that. So this is where it's like, you need to be doing a methodical clear. And it's like, we didn't really bring it up, but this is also the sort of situation where, you know, if you are playing in something with lots of flanks, you know, on Reinhardt, you kind of like, instead of playing main, you kind of play to one side of main where you can watch flank and main as necessary, right? But because you don't want these flanks to, you don't want them to have control of these flanks, because there is not a lot that you can do on Reinhardt if you are surrounded in a horseshoe sort of thing. So
Yeah, I do that in some places. Like Havana B, I'll set up on the high ground and I'll have I'll put up my shield so I can look down the stairs and down main simultaneously.
Yeah. So this Doom fucked it up. The Zarya didn't coordinate with the Doom, and I mean, your Mei went up there not even thinking about dealing with the Doom, and the Mercy bailed her out. But this was a ridiculous situation.
If your Ana dies here, for example, like that's just a dead fight.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
So and the Ana was out in the open in perfect slam range for the Doom. They had you checkmated and then blundered. So.
I like that counter grab.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I've been harping on the Zarya's grabs all game.
You got Nano right before you got Anti.
That was a clutch Nano.
Yeah.
I was about to say I'd love to see a shield there just to let your Zarya clean up, but the Nano was clutch.
Blap.
That was a really good example of holding aggro long enough for your Mercy to get a res off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Letting your team carry you in those kind of situations is good. You're doing your job as the tank. You're pulling 4 people on you at that point, but it wasn't quite enough, I guess.
Happens.
But yeah, sometimes you do need to take more of a passive role as the main tank, especially when it's not like a brawl mirror. You can't just play around Zarya bubble and swings and get carried by that. You need to be taking the time to set up your team and playing around the range of your team.
I don't think you're gonna touch. Sucks.
Nope.
Even if you full charge here, it's not gonna matter.
Yeah, honestly, even if you swap to like ball, I don't think you would have gotten past all these people.
Yeah, that's too bad. All right. Well,
Yeah.
what are your
Any questions about anything?
what are your thoughts or questions?
This is all really good information about positioning and like how to like I said, the whole thing about like pulling people in and like when to play more aggressive or passive and thinking about it a little bit more. Like I know those concepts. I just learning more about how to apply them and like the situations to think about for that is helpful. Because then I can actually go my next game, like actually sit down and think about this and think like, okay, do I need to play passive? How do I bait them in? What's the space? Like I know about concepts like kill boxes and whatnot, but just
How to create
applying
them,
them.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've always thought, like I'm on Rein, I just go. Like you know, deliberately pulling back to create a kill box for my team is not something I actively think about.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I would definitely recommend like running it through in your head, and then if you like, you know, everybody else's playstyle is going to be different, where you can just like ask very simple questions like, you know, a yes or no question, where you can ask like Doom, you know, are you going to be playing with me, or are you going to play like, you know, high ground, like, or Hanzo, how are you going to play? And like, I think that one of the reasons that I like to ask kind of like yes or no questions or this or that questions is because I've had so many fucking idiots in rank where I'm like, Hanzo, how are you going to play? And they're like a fucking Hanzo. I'm like, oh my god. Like, there's so many people who think that their playstyle is the only playstyle for that hero or the right playstyle. So it's like, if you have a question about like how somebody's playing, are you going to play on the flank or are you going to play with me, right? That's a this or that. They're not going to play like, I'm going to play like a Doomfist. And those guys are so fucking annoying, but...
I mean, maybe they play like a McCree and they're actually wrong.
Right, so... right. Oh, Shock says something in chat. Not bad. Biggest tip to Rein players I would give is don't depend on team, especially not in Diamond. Playing by a book, aka how you should play, sadly won't work. Improvise and doing plays is sadly what you gotta do, and try your best to be the DPS while tanking. So there's a little...
I both agree and disagree with that.
Oh.
I would say don't depend on your team, but still play around them, right? You'd say the same to a flanker like Tracer. You don't want to just 1v6 in the backline every time you're fighting. You want to wait for times in which your team is also either using or taking attention at the same time. So just because they're not carrying you and you still need to put in all the hard work, you still need to use them as a resource. At the very least, they're going to be causing attention. Hopefully, they're doing more than that, more than just existing. But it's still important because you can't just 1v6 every game, realistically. And as someone who's as short-ranged as Reinhardt, the situations in which you are strong are not going to cover all the different situations in a game of Overwatch. So you'll need to set up situations for the rest of your team in order for them to be better off.